Gloria, leave the ward files on the desk and step back for us.
These are court-supervised cases. What exactly are you looking for?
Dozens of incapacitated people trusted Gloria Byars with everything they had left. Their savings, their homes, their pensions. Every single one of them paid for that trust, and this is where she answers for it.
We're reviewing checks written from accounts you controlled.
Then you need the full guardianship records, not just selected pages.
She would not live long enough to be sentenced. Gloria Byars pleaded guilty on the eve of trial to conspiracy, wire fraud, money laundering, and tax fraud. Federal prosecutors had documented over $1 million stolen from at least 120 incapacitated people across the Philadelphia region between 2012 and 2018. Elderly, blind, nonverbal, dementia patients. Wards of the court who had been handed to her by judges for protection. She buried them in spreadsheets and shell companies and drained their accounts to pay for vacations, cars, and parties. And when federal agents came for her, she tried to post bail using the very gold coins she had pried out of a blind woman's safe deposit box. Before we go any further, I want you to think about something. If you became unable to manage your own affairs tomorrow, a stroke, an accident, a diagnosis you cannot pronounce, a judge would appoint a stranger to hold every dollar you own. Does that thought scare you? Drop a comment and tell me where you are watching from. And if you are not subscribed yet, now is the time. We cover the cases that fall through the cracks of the system every single week. Gloria Byars was born in 1959 in Philadelphia, the second of 5 children raised in a row house off Cobbs Creek Parkway. Her father worked the loading dock at the old SEPTA bus depot on Callow Hill Street. Her mother cleaned offices in Center City on the 11 to 7 shift. Money was tight, but never absent. Her parents kept a hand-labeled envelope in the kitchen drawer marked burial, and another marked Christmas, and another marked rent. Every Friday the envelopes got fatter or thinner, depending on what the week had cost them. Gloria learned early that paper was power. She watched her mother sit at the kitchen table on Sunday afternoons, sorting receipts and counting cash. She watched her father sign for everything, the rent, the milk delivery, the church donation, because in their world, the signature was the only thing that proved anything had ever happened. By 12, she was filling out her own savings deposit slip at the PSFS branch on 60th Street. By 15, she was reconciling her mother's checkbook in pencil. She graduated from Overbrook High in 1977 and went straight to work. Her first job was at a small accounting firm on Walnut Street, answering phones and filing 1040s for $2.65 an hour. The senior partner liked her handwriting and gave her the ledger work nobody else wanted. She married Eugene Byars in 1981 at a Justice of the Peace ceremony in Delaware County. They moved to a brick twin on Magnolia Avenue in Aldan, Pennsylvania, a small Delaware County borough of about 4,000 people, 10 minutes off the Blue Route. They had 2 daughters. They attended a Baptist congregation on McDade Boulevard. The neighbors thought of them as quiet, polite, the kind of people who shoveled your sidewalk if you were out of town. In 1994, Gloria answered an ad in the Delaware County Daily Times. A small guardianship company in Media, Pennsylvania, needed an office manager. The owner was a retired family court attorney who ran the business out of a converted dental office near the courthouse. Gloria was hired at $22,000 a year. She would stay there for the next 16 years. The work was paperwork. When a Delaware County or Philadelphia judge decided that an elderly person could no longer make their own financial decisions, whether from dementia, stroke, brain injury, or advanced Alzheimer's, the judge appointed a guardian. The guardian took control of every dollar the ward owned: bank accounts, pensions, Social Security, real estate, annuities, safe deposit boxes. The guardian filed an annual accounting with the court showing what came in and what went out. The system assumed the guardian was honest. The system did not check. Gloria's performance reviews from those years were consistently positive, detail-oriented, highly organized, manages a heavy caseload with discretion. Her boss, the retired attorney, would later tell investigators that he had trusted her completely. He had given her signature authority on the operating account. He had given her keys to the file room. He had given her the names and bank information of every ward the firm represented. In 2010, Gloria left the firm and started her own guardianship company. She rented a small office above a hair salon on McDade Boulevard. She printed business cards. She filed her LLC with the Pennsylvania Department of State. And then she did something simple and devastating. She walked into the Court of Common Pleas in Philadelphia, then in Delaware County, then in Montgomery County, and she introduced herself to the judges who handled guardianship petitions. She told them she was experienced. She told them she was bonded. She told them she had room for new wards. Within 2 years, judges across 3 counties were appointing Gloria Byars to manage the lives of incapacitated strangers. Guardianship in Pennsylvania is a creature of the orphan's court. When a family member, a hospital social worker, or a county agency believes that an adult can no longer handle their own affairs, a petition is filed. A judge holds a hearing. A doctor's letter is reviewed. The ward almost never appears, because by the time a guardianship petition is filed, the ward is usually past speaking for themselves. The judge signs an order. A guardian is appointed. The ward, legally, becomes a kind of adult child of the court. The guardian gets 2 things. The first is sweeping financial power. Every account the ward owns is now controlled by the guardian. The guardian can write checks. The guardian can sell the house. The guardian can liquidate the annuity. The guardian can drill open the safe deposit box. The second is almost no oversight. Pennsylvania law requires the guardian to file an annual report and an annual financial accounting. The reports are filed in the orphan's court clerk's office. Almost no one reads them. Almost no one audits them. There are no random spot checks. There are no surprise bank reviews. There is no inspector general for guardianship. The other layer of trust was the bond. Every guardian in Pennsylvania is supposed to be bonded, a surety bond filed with the court that, in theory, would reimburse a ward if the guardian stole from them. Gloria had a bond. The problem with surety bonds is the same problem with annual accountings. They only matter if someone notices the theft and files a claim. And the wards in Gloria's caseload were, by definition, the people least able to notice anything. By 2013, Gloria's company had been appointed guardian for more than 80 wards across 3 counties. By 2016, the number was over 120. She had hired her brother, Carlton Rembert, to help with the work. She had brought in a woman named Alesha Mitchell to handle bookkeeping and bank deposits. Their wards lived in nursing homes in Philadelphia, in assisted living facilities in Drexel Hill, in private rooms in Bryn Mawr, in memory care units in Cheltenham. Some of them had family who checked in once a year. Some of them had no family at all. No one noticed. No one checked. The first theft that federal investigators would eventually trace happened in March of 2012. Gloria had just been appointed guardian for an elderly widow living in a personal care home in Lansdowne. The widow had a money market account at TD Bank with roughly $41,000 in it. Gloria wrote a check from the account for $8,000, payable to a company called Allied Medical Billing Services. There was no such service. Allied Medical Billing Services was an empty LLC that Alesha Mitchell had registered 3 weeks earlier with the Pennsylvania Department of State. The company had no clients, no phone number, no employees. It had a Sovereign Bank business checking account that Mitchell had opened with $75 in cash. The $8,000 check cleared in 4 business days. Mitchell wrote a cashier's check for $4,500 to Gloria's personal account. The rest went into a paper grocery bag. That was the template. Over the next 6 years, Gloria and her co-conspirators would run that template hundreds of times. The shell companies multiplied: Eastern Healthcare Consulting, Tri-County Billing Solutions, Keystone Patient Services. Each one had a name designed to look reasonable on a bank statement. Each one had a checking account opened by either Carlton Rembert or Alesha Mitchell, or a friend recruited for a flat fee. Each account had no other activity except the deposits of unauthorized guardianship checks. Each one operated for 9 to 14 months before being abandoned and replaced. Gloria wrote the checks. She had signature authority on every ward's accounts. The checks were processed through bank branches in Lansdowne, in Yadon, in Darby, in West Philadelphia. The amounts varied to avoid pattern detection: 6,000, 11,500, 3,200, 18,000. A few were larger. Many were small enough that a board clerk would simply stamp them and move on. The annual court accountings were filed on time, every year, in every county. They were filed by Gloria herself, signed under penalty of perjury. They listed the ward's assets. They listed legitimate expenses, nursing home bills, prescription co-pays, taxes, utilities. They did not list the checks to the shell companies. Those were buried inside vague categories like administrative and miscellaneous services and professional fees. The orphans' court clerks stamped them received. No one read them. The money paid for things that did not match the income of a small business owner from Aldan. Gloria bought a 2014 Mercedes-Benz GLK. She paid cash for landscaping at her home. She took her daughters and grandchildren on a Caribbean cruise. She funded a daughter's wedding reception at a banquet hall in Wilmington. She paid for parties at her church. She made charitable donations under her own name. She bought handbags and jewelry and a 65-inch television. The largest single theft happened in 2015. One of Gloria's wards was a retired federal employee, a man in his 70s who had spent his career as a civilian engineer at the Philadelphia Navy Yard. After a series of strokes left him unable to handle his own affairs, the orphans' court had appointed Gloria as his guardian. The man's thrift savings plan, the federal government's version of a 401k, had a balance of $756,000. Over the course of 20 months, Gloria liquidated the account in a series of transactions and routed every dollar through her shell company network. The retired engineer died in a nursing home in 2017, thinking he was financially comfortable. He never knew he was destitute. By 2017, Gloria and her co-conspirators had stolen well over $1 million. The number of wards exceeded 120. Most were dead or dying, or so far gone into dementia that they could not have understood a bank statement if one had been read to them. Then she walked into a vault at a small TD Bank branch in Drexel Hill, carrying a court order. The order gave her permission to access the safe deposit box of an elderly woman in her care. The woman was 78 years old. She was blind. She was nonverbal. She had advanced dementia. She had been Gloria's ward for 2 weeks. Inside the box, drilled open by a bank employee because the woman could no longer remember where the key was, were 26 gold Krugerrand coins, South African 1-ounce gold pieces. At the prevailing 2017 spot price, roughly $33,000 in metal. Gloria slipped them into her purse. She did not list them on the inventory she filed with the orphans' court. She had already drained nearly $132,000 from the same woman's accounts. The unraveling did not begin with a victim. The victims could not unravel anything. The unraveling began with the IRS. In late 2017, a Philadelphia field agent with the Internal Revenue Service Criminal Investigation Division was running a routine review of small businesses in the Pennsylvania suburbs whose reported income did not match the lifestyle indicators publicly attached to their owners. Cars registered, properties owned, charitable donations made under taxpayer names, travel patterns visible on basic open-source searches. Gloria Byars' name came up because her business reported modest income, $60-something thousand in net profit annually, and yet her household had purchased 2 luxury vehicles in 18 months, paid cash for substantial renovations, and made repeated international cruise bookings. The agent pulled her tax returns. He pulled her business banking. He saw, in the business account, a slow, steady flow of checks coming in from a long list of personal accounts in names like estate of and guardianship of, and going out in much smaller amounts that did not appear to be salary. He flagged the file and walked it across the hall to the FBI's white-collar squad at the Philadelphia field office. Within 30 days, the case had a name on it: Operation Custodian. Within 60 days, federal agents had pulled the court files for every ward Gloria had ever been appointed to manage. Within 90 days, they had subpoenaed the banks. Within 6 months, they had a forensic accounting team mapping every transaction across 41 separate accounts. The map was a spider's web. At the center was Gloria Byars. Each filament led outward to a shell company. Each shell company led to a co-conspirator. Each co-conspirator led, eventually, back to Gloria. In April of 2019, federal agents executed a search warrant at the office above the salon on McDade Boulevard. They seized the entire file room, every case folder, every ward's records, every billing statement. They seized 2 desktop computers and a laptop. They seized check registers from 3 different operating accounts. In the bottom drawer of Gloria's desk, they found a small unmarked manila envelope. Inside it were 26 gold Krugerrand coins. She had not sold them yet. She had not deposited them. She had simply kept them in a drawer in her office, like a souvenir. The forensic accounting was relentless. Federal agents and IRS analysts spent the better part of a year reconciling Gloria's annual court filings against the actual bank records of the wards. Every line item was checked. Every shell company was traced. Every check was tracked from the moment it left a ward's account to the moment the cash was withdrawn. The numbers were staggering. 127 wards had been victimized in some way. The total amount stolen exceeded $1 million by a comfortable margin. Some wards had lost a few thousand. Others had lost everything they owned. The retired Navy Yard engineer had lost $756,000 of his thrift savings plan. The blind, nonverbal woman with dementia had lost almost $132,000 from her bank accounts and 26 Krugerrands from her safe deposit box. A retired schoolteacher from Upper Darby had lost the proceeds from the sale of her late husband's house, over $200,000. A man in a nursing home in Bryn Mawr, a former Korean War veteran with no surviving family, had lost the entire principal of an annuity his late wife had set up for him in 1992. Investigators interviewed Carlton Rembert first, Gloria's brother. He had opened bank accounts for at least 4 of the shell companies. He had cashed checks. He had received envelopes of cash from his sister. He denied everything in the first interview. He denied less in the second. By the third interview, his lawyer was negotiating. Alesha Mitchell came next. She had registered 7 of the shell companies. She had been the principal bookkeeper for the entire scheme. She had also been a friend of Gloria's for over a decade. She did not negotiate. She insisted she had done nothing wrong. The case agents simply added her name to the indictment. The texts and emails recovered from the seized computers and phones were the spine of the case. There were thousands of messages. Most were mundane, some were not. Gloria to Mitchell, March 14, 2016. Send the Eastern Healthcare check today. Need to cover the cruise deposit. Mitchell to Gloria, same day. Cleared. Drop off tonight. Gloria to Mitchell, June 9, 2016. Pulled $14,000 from the Lansdowne ward. 3 checks across 2 weeks. Should be clean. Carlton to Gloria, October 2, 2016. Need more accounts. 2 of mine are getting old. Gloria to Carlton, same day. Open Tri-County this week. I'll send the registration cash by Friday. There were hundreds of messages like these. The agents printed them out and indexed them by ward, by shell company, by year. The folder ran to thousands of pages. We are about to walk into the courtroom together. Before we do, I want to say something. The wards in this case could not protect themselves. That is the entire reason a guardian was appointed in the first place. The system that exists to protect them is the same system that handed them to the person who robbed them. If you believe stories like this need to be told and remembered, subscribe and share this video. These victims do not have anyone else speaking for them. The federal indictment came down in November of 2020. Gloria Byars, Carlton Rembert, Alesha Mitchell, conspiracy, wire fraud, money laundering, tax fraud, more than 30 counts in total. Federal agents arrived at the Brick Twin on Magnolia Avenue at 6:43 in the morning on a Tuesday. Gloria answered the door in a quilted bathrobe. Her hair was wrapped in a silk scarf. She held a coffee mug. The lead agent, a woman in her 40s with FBI stenciled across the back of a Navy windbreaker, identified herself and asked Gloria to step outside. Gloria said, "What is this about?" The agent began to read the warrant. Gloria interrupted her. Gloria said, "I have done nothing wrong. I have served those people for years. Years." The agent said, "Ma'am, please put down the cup." Gloria said, "I want my attorney." The agent said, "You'll be able to call your attorney from the field office." Gloria said, "I want my attorney now." The agent took her by the elbow. Gloria did not resist. She was placed in the back of a black SUV in her bathrobe and her slippers. Neighbors watched from across the street. A second team carried out boxes of records, the 2 desktop computers from the home office, and a small fireproof safe that had been bolted to the floor of the basement. At the federal courthouse on Market Street in Philadelphia, Gloria was processed and presented to a magistrate judge for a bail hearing. The prosecutor argued for detention. The defense argued for release on home detention with electronic monitoring. The bail was set at $250,000, secured. Gloria did not have the cash. Her accounts had been frozen by a court order issued at the indictment. Her properties were now encumbered by a lien. She needed to raise the bail money from her own assets, and quickly. She remembered the coins. A few days after her release on a property bond, Gloria contacted a precious metals dealer in Northeast Philadelphia about selling 26 gold Krugerrand coins. The dealer asked her where she had obtained them. She told him they had been a gift from her father. The dealer took down her information and called the FBI. The Krugerrands she had pried from a blind woman's safe deposit box were now being offered to pay for her own freedom. The case was assigned to the United States District Court for the Eastern District of Pennsylvania. Gloria's defense attorney, a private criminal defense lawyer from a small firm in Center City, fought the indictment for nearly 3 years. Motions to suppress, motions to sever the defendants, motions to exclude the bank records, motions to challenge the venue. The judge denied almost all of them. Carlton Rembert took his case to trial. The jury heard from 41 witnesses over the course of 3 weeks. They heard from forensic accountants. They heard from former bank employees who remembered processing the checks. They heard from nursing home administrators who had watched Gloria sweep in and out of their facilities for years carrying clipboards. They heard from the surviving family members of 2 wards who had died waiting for someone to notice what had been done to them. The jury deliberated for less than a day. Carlton Rembert was convicted on every count. Gloria did not want a trial. She had watched her brother's trial from the gallery. She had seen the photographs of the safe deposit box. She had heard the testimony about the Krugerrands. She had watched the jury walk in with their verdict already written on their faces. On the eve of her own trial in early 2023, Gloria pleaded guilty. Conspiracy to commit wire fraud, money laundering, tax fraud. The plea agreement contemplated a sentence in the range of 7 to 9 years in federal prison, plus full restitution. The sentencing hearing was scheduled. The victim impact statements were drafted. The daughter of the retired federal engineer wrote a letter to the judge. "My father died believing he was comfortable," she wrote. "He died not knowing he had nothing left." The woman who stole from him called herself his guardian. She called herself a professional. She was a thief in a suit, and she stole from a man who could not speak for himself, and she stole his dignity along with his savings. Gloria Byars never sat for sentencing. She died in 2023, after her plea and before the hearing. Cancer, her family said. Her death certificate listed it without ceremony. The federal case against her closed without a sentence ever being imposed. The victims her family did not know. The victims whose names she had typed on hundreds of unauthorized checks. The victims who had been blind or nonverbal or so far into dementia that they had forgotten their own children. They never got to watch her stand and be sentenced. They never got to watch a federal judge speak her name and the years she would serve into the record. They got nothing. Their families spoke to reporters and used the same phrase over and over. We were robbed twice. The system had been designed to protect them. The system had appointed her. The system had given her the keys. The system had let her file annual reports that no one read. The system had let her drill open a blind woman's safe deposit box and pocket 26 gold coins. And in the end, when accountability finally arrived, the system let her slip out the back door. Carlton Rembert is serving his sentence in a federal prison in central Pennsylvania. Alesha Mitchell pleaded out and received a shorter term. The court ordered restitution that will never be fully paid because the money is gone, spent on cruises and cars and parties and a small brick twin on Magnolia Avenue in Aldan, Pennsylvania, where the marigolds still grew in the planter beds the spring after she died. This case was infuriating, but the case on the right-hand side is somehow worse. Click it now.